Hello, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good night. It's pretty late, and yet it felt important for me to come live here this evening. So I'll wait just a few seconds. Maybe some of you may join. I'm aware of the time. As I was writing this down, it just felt so important to speak it up, to share it. Because I am sure that just like me, you may resonate with what I would love to share at this moment. Hello! Just drop your name in the comments so I know who you are, so I can greet you properly. Welcome. Yeah, so I would love to share something very personal to me, very close to my heart, that I've never shared before. I've never shared openly with no one. And it feels important and relevant to be shared. I have just completed another session with my group. I'm leading this 12-week deep life transformation, and we're speaking about connecting with our true selves. And this inspired me, together with the very powerful times that we are going right now through, which is the eclipse season. So we have a new moon in Aries, total solar eclipse. I think this can be observed from Australia. And this will carry on until the eclipse season, until the 5th of May, where we are going to conclude it with partial lunar eclipse. And also tomorrow we are embarking in a journey of Mercury retrograde until the 4th of May for 3 weeks. So it's a very powerful time to go within and to really connect with ourselves and really look, reflect on our journey, on our choices, on our life. And I would love to share something that I'm very vulnerable to share with you, because I feel that I'm not alone in this. So what I would love to share that I've never shared before, that in my heart, I am an artist. And I stopped this right at the beginning of my life, talking about being true to self. And I was reflecting on this, for how long have we practiced not being true to who we are? Maybe some of us, some of you don't even remember when you stopped being who you truly are. So I was born an artist. I know this because I know the way I look at the world, the way I perceive things, the way I feel inspired to dance and to sing and to pray with things. And yet somehow at the beginning of my life, I've made some decisions to be safe. And to be safe, I had to abandon my heart. I have to abandon myself. So I remember I was only 4 years old when I drove my mom absolutely insane because I wanted to become a ballerina. That was my first wish in this life, what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wanted to be a dancer. And specifically, I wanted to be a ballet dancer because I really enjoy the music and also the gracefulness with which the ballet dancers are moving. It's almost like they are drawing with their bodies invisible canvases of joy, of deep emotion that are deeply felt in the hearts of those who watch. But also, since I was very small, I noticed that dancing is doing something to my soul, to my heart, something going on in my body as I danced. And I felt if I can be a ballet dancer, I can experience those sensations, that beauty within myself. I can allow the music to move me in ways in which I can touch different dimensions within my body. I didn't know how to express this as a child, but I knew the complexity of these feelings. It was like a beauty of upward spiral that was propelling me to something greater. A joy and a beauty in which I could disappear in a magical way. So for me, dance was one of the ways in which right now I would say that I would touch oneness. As a child, I didn't know that is oneness. I just knew that the place where I was when I was dancing, it was something incredible. So when I was 4 years old, I drove my mom totally insane that I wanted to be a ballet dancer. And I'm coming from a very small city in Romania, 28,000 people, this together with all the villages around. And we only had a children's club. We didn't have a ballet school for many miles around. So the only available place which could give me something close, an experience quite close to the ballet dancing, was to do rhythmic gymnastic. So you may understand that rhythmic gymnastic and ballet dancing, it's quite different. But there is some commonality, the music and the rhythmical moving on the music. So finally my mom got me to these classes and I was so excited. I remember how I wouldn't touch the ground with the feet. I was so happy to be there. And yet my happiness was very short-lived because I hit the wall of the reality at the time. And the reality was that the place was great. However, the teacher, whatever life experiences she had and upbringing she had, the way she was expressing herself and the way she was speaking with us was something very difficult for me. Now, I was used from home with quite a bit of loudness and sometimes, maybe a verbal aggression, but I have never experienced being called those names and being spoken to this way. So no matter how much I tried to follow my bliss and embrace the rhythmic gymnastics and my wish to become a ballet dancer, my first wish in this world that I'm aware of, I stopped. And it just somehow, it pains me that somehow the coldness and the roughness and abusive expression that we find in this world makes the beauty stop. And I stopped. I was not strong enough to continue. And then I remember I was, so at 5 years old, I gave up my dream to be a ballet dancer. But I still had few things that I was ready to explore. So at 7 years old, I also gave up painting officially in some ways. I was in school in the first grade and I will never forget, we had the task to paint a mask for the winter season. So in Romania we have the dance of the bear, which is very traditional for the passing of the years, between the years, at the celebration of the new year. And also part of this is also like a dance of masked people. I think it's quite famous in many traditions in the world in different ways. And I decided to draw the mask of a fox. And as a child, as I drew this mask, I felt that my fox was quite sad. So what I did, I tried to lift the corners of the snout of the fox. So the fox mask would be maybe a little bit, look a bit more happy. And that was not to the liking of my teacher, so I got a bad mark for that. So that really scared me, because somehow as I entered school, I decided that school is my job, that I'm going to be such a good student all the time, because I didn't want to cause more distress in my family because of my abilities at school. So when I saw that painting, drawing gets me into trouble, I also decided to abandon that. And then, so this was, I was 7 years old. And then, you know, writing took up in school and so on. And I love to write. Writing, it's one of my superpower. And I say this with no false modesty, because I think we should be aware what we're good at. And maybe we're not perfect because maybe some training is required, but we all know what are our superpowers. So I was so happy because we had to do in the second grade these compositions. We could write, and now we were supposed to do short compositions about different topics. So I remember it was again autumn, and I got this composition to write a composition about autumn. And I remember so perfectly, it was this like, I don't know how it was in other parts of the world, but at the time when I was 8 years old, in my country, like we had this like long time in autumn when it was just raining, and it was so poetic and so beautiful. It was just raining. It felt like the time forgot us, and it was just rain. And it, in a certain way, it had such a deep poetry in it. And also, like, if you look at it, sometimes we may not like rain, but if we look at it, rain is also a time when it's amazing for us to just, you know, stay indoors maybe, or do things a bit slower. And this weather doesn't really put pressure on us. We can do things slower. We don't need to rush. We can rest. We can, if we can even lay in bed a bit longer. There is no pressure on us. So I remember I had this task from school to write a composition about rain, like a short blog or creative writing. I don't know how you put it. It's a short composition about rain, an essay. And I remember, because I already encountered that my teacher in school like was not so happy with how I was writing. I remember that I wrote 3 versions of it, and I drove my mom absolutely insane, because I remember myself being in the kitchen and reading these short stories about autumn. I wrote 3, and I was reading them one after the other, asking my mom, which one is the best? Just tell me which one is the best so I can write this in my official homework notebook for tomorrow. And my mom was like, they're all good. I like them all. And I got so upset. I was like, oh, you let me down. You cannot, be serious and listen seriously to me and give me a serious opinion and something I can really rely on. So in the end, we came to some conclusion, and I wrote one of them. I wrote it in my notebook. It took me a long time because I really wanted to be the best one, and I wanted to be really good. I really wanted to do a good job about my homework. And I remember what happened the next day was really excruciating for me. I was... for some reason, like it really happened that I was asked to read my homework in front of the class, which I did. And I was shaking after reading it, because, like when you write something from your heart, it's almost like you show a piece of yourself to everyone. And it's very vulnerable because it's just your heart there without any covers, without any protection. So I just shared that. And I remember that the feedback that I got is, first was that the child doesn't write like this, And the second feedback was who wrote my homework. And I remember I was still standing when I got these questions, almost one after the other, with little break in between, and I started crying. I was not ashamed so much about my colleagues, as I felt really hurt because I felt that I am misunderstood. It was very painful for me, even though I was just 8 years old. It was very painful for me because I realized that the person in front of me doesn't understand me. It's almost like doesn't see me. So that day I also gave up writing. So I gave up on myself as an artist when I was 8 years old. And in that day I decided to embrace exact sciences. And I was really focused to be really good at grammar, and also like mathematics, and later on physics and chemistry and all the exact sciences, because I felt that since I am misunderstood and I wanted to do a good job about myself being a good student, so I make sure that there are no more problems at home because of me, that I don't contribute to that. This is when I abandoned myself and my heart as an artist, as my true self. For a while, I remember when I was 8 years old, something opened up like it always does. I remember this teacher from the kids club came to our school, and there was the possibility for doing painting as a hobby. So I embraced that, and I still did painting for about 6 years. And I remember that for me was like a vent, was a way to breathe. I was going there once or twice a week, up to 2 hours, and I was just putting my soul on a white piece of paper. And that was liberating. And also like something that happened at that time between, 8-year-old and until I was about 14, 15, as I pursued this as a hobby. I remember that at the time I was my paintings were participating in many competitions, like UNICEF competitions and many competitions in Europe and national competitions, but mostly like international competitions that had to do with peace and children and so on. And I remember my teacher coming to show me all this, prizes that I would get and diplomas that I would get. And I remember they were just never really touched me, because all that I wanted was to paint. And this, for me, these memories are very important, because it just showed me when you do something that you really love, becomes part of you, and you do it because it's who you are, and the rewards are amazing, but they don't change you. They don't change who you are, either if the rewards are there or not. This is who you are, and this is what you continue doing. It's just that when we grow up, we start being so much orientated what other people think, that we start being solely guided by the rewards and the results of our work. And in that moment, we know that there is a gap between who we truly are and what we do. Because I remember when I was painting as a child, even though I had all these rewards, all these prizes, all these competitions that found my work so amazing, it was not my focus. My focus was to paint. That's all I wanted. And that was giving me infinite freedom. It was a way for me to breathe. So where am I going with this evening? So I wanted to share this video. It's a way of sharing, from my journey, that I know I'm an artist, and I became a scientist because I wanted to be safe. And it's not that I could not be a good scientist, or I could not do other things well. It's not about that. We can become whatever we want, and we can be that at any level we want. But the question is, what is nourishing your heart? I know for me, nothing, not the food, not material rewards, can give me what art gives me. So for me, if I'm not able to be in nature, if I'm not able to go to see a show like a ballet, like an opera, like an art gallery, like, I am not a human being. My inspirations fades away. Where I'm lucky is that in the same way that this feeds me, music and ballet and opera and theater feeds me, in the same way also nature feeds me. So my question for you this evening is, where do you get your food from? The food from your soul. This is an indication for you that maybe something within yourself is looking for an outlet in that direction. Maybe that's something in you that you would love to pursue in that direction. Maybe you did for a while and you stopped to be safe, just like me. Or maybe you never looked into it. So, even though I was a scientist for a long time and I embrace science, exact sciences fully, like my full-time job since I was 8 until, I don't know, I was in science until a few years ago. So most of my life I was a scientist because I wanted to be safe. But guess what? Even science I did as an artist. I did it as an artist because rather than wanting to find something with any price, I was just curious to see what is there. I was just curious to see what is there. And I have surrendered to what is, to the nature of things, curious to see it come out to meet me and to see what is there. And now I have the privilege to be an artist working with consciousness, which is also amazing. But also I start embracing, dancing and painting and writing again, because this is who I truly am at heart. And it's so important for us to embrace our true nature. So this video is really an invitation for all of you to reconnect or connect even deeper with what you truly love, what feeds you, what nourishes you. And it doesn't matter that it can be forever since you stopped doing it. You can always start again. This is who you are. And also, something that I remind myself, and I also want to invite you to remind yourselves this, is that results don't matter if somebody else finds what you create beautiful or not. This is all subjective. If this is something that it's supporting you to express yourself, to embrace who you truly are, created. You know what they say, we need to create art for art's sake. There is no other reason to create art, just for the beauty, the joy, the expression of our heart to find its way into this world. So thank you for watching this evening, and hopefully it also inspired you to reconnect with what you love and with who you truly are. Thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful night, a beautiful day wherever you're watching this from. Lots of love. Be well. Bye.